My name is Carrie, and I'm a United States Marine veteran. I enlisted in the Marines in 1988, fresh out of high school, 18 years old. But I really didn't have any passion or patriotic commitment or drive that made me choose to join the military. I was in a small town, I wanted to get out, and I just wasn't ready to go off to college yet. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of things going on in the world, so I really felt like the risk for combat was low. Also, being a woman Marine, there weren't a lot of opportunities to get in a combat position. And so I was trained as a Russian linguist. And so the Cold War was coming to an end. I was a woman Marine as a Russian linguist. I felt like I was going to be okay. It took me 18 months to get to the fleet to get out of training, and I landed in the exotic location of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And this was a time before we had the internet, before I had cell phones, and before we were even allowed personal transportation. So I settled in for what I figured was very non-interesting time, non-exciting time as a Marine. Well, in 1990, things started to change. Desert Shield and Desert Storm started up, and a lot of the units in the base started getting deployed. Now, there was a lot of anxiety around this because it wasn't common at the time. It'd been a long time before large units had been deployed at one time. We had a lot of members of our battalion that were attached to other units and were deployed with them, but our battalion hadn't been called. Well, the day came. We were called to deploy as an entire unit. That's a day that I'll never forget. We were standing on the parade deck in the morning. Our gear was all staged, and the buses were there, and we were ready to go. The battalion commander came out. He brought the battalion to attention. He had some things to say, and then he asked the women Marines to step out. We fell out of the formation, and everybody else left. That was a day that I wasn't prepared for, and I knew at that moment that things were changing for me drastically. I had a choice. I could choose to become a victim of inequality, or I could choose to step up and handle it and take my seat at the table. Well, I chose to step up and take my seat at the table, and I continued to perform to the highest levels of excellence and standards expected as a United States Marine. Well, my resiliency and my tenacity paid off. In 1991, our battalion had an extra number of jump school seats that we didn't need. And my captain actually had suggested that I be offered the opportunity to go. Well, jump school was an adventure. It's interesting. After a full day of practice landings, I came to discover something, and that was that there are muscles in my neck that I never knew I had. As it turns out, a Kevlar helmet is extremely heavy when firmly attached to the head and repeatedly picked up off the ground. I learned a lot of things in jump school. But the day that we were prepared to do our first jumps, I felt like I was ready. I had a lot of confidence in my trainings, but I'd be lying if I told you that I wasn't scared. So while we were gearing up, I found out that the soldier 2 in front of me was actually a chaplain. And somehow I found comfort in that, and it gave me a little extra boost of confidence. I guess I felt that because he was there and by proximity I was close to him, and together God would take care of us and bring us down safely. So we geared up and we got ready to get on the plane. Now, my jump instructor was a staff NCO. He was a really tall, intimidating guy, and he wore a patch over his eye. And that patch was there because of an unfortunate jump accident. It didn't really help with confidence. So we loaded up, and as we loaded up in the plane, my jump master took me off and put me off to the side. And immediately I thought there was something wrong with my gear, so confidence was really getting stuck. He loaded up the rest of the students from jump school into the plane, and then he turned, he looked over my gear, he told me everything was fine and that I had been given the opportunity to go out of the plane first. Now, my new chaplain friend was deep inside the belly of the plane at this point, and I didn't have that proximity anymore, and I had been going in with the thought that I knew that if I saw someone else go first, I knew I could follow them. That would be the thing that would help me overcome my fear. So there I sat. I was going to be first. The plane took off, and it felt like less than 5 minutes as I was dealing with the new insecurities that had overcome me, when the jump master stood up and he opened the door. And then he asked us to stand up and buckle up and shuffle to the door, just like the cadence sound that you're hearing in your head right now. Only for me to stand up and shuffle to the door meant actually to stick my toes out over the edge of the opening of the plane and to wrap my hands on the outer skin of the plane. And so that jump master not so quietly got in my ear to remind me that I needed to go when that light turned green. If I didn't, I was going to get a size 12 boot up my rear. And he also reminded me that everybody was counting on me to be able to get out the door. So when that light turned green, I went. And I'm proud to tell you that it did not include a size 12 boot. Today when I fly, 1,500 feet, there's this little bit of anxiety that goes through me because I'll never forget what 1,500 feet looked like. What an amazing event. So I returned to my unit, and I was actually assigned a jump billet where I was given the opportunity to continue to jump out of what other people would call perfectly good airplane. I'm not sure exactly what that means. In any event, because I was serving in a jump billet and I was continuing to train in different types of jump, I actually qualified for the Navy Marine Corps jump wings. There was a problem. One day I was out on the base and I was wearing the gold jump wings, and I had a staff NCO come up to me and completely publicly berate me for wearing them. It turns out he couldn't believe that I could rate to wear them because of my gender. Well, we met up in the CO's office, me standing tall, him and the CO discussing the problem, when my commanding officer confirmed that the Marine Corps order specifically stated assignment of male Marines to jump billets. Well, it turns out that anatomically I was missing something to hold that assignment that I had been given and the ensuing awarded Navy Marine Corps gold jump wings. So my CO went to bat for me. He called Headquarters Marine Corps, and they accelerated the gender removal of the Marine Corps order, which I had been working on. So 2 months later, we had a pinning on ceremony, and the CO pinned on the Navy Marine Corps jump wings, making me the first woman Marine to earn the gold jump wings. You know, it was interesting. I never expected to break a glass ceiling in a male-centric environment such as the Marines. It's an opportunity that came, and I was driven, and I was prepared. And it was a battle. You know, it was a tough time. And, you know, today there are no visible wounds to show that battle, but I think that's like a lot of people. A lot of people go through stuff in life, and whether it's a combat environment or it's an environment of breaking a glass ceiling, or it's dealing with family or whatever it is, I think we all face battles, and we all end up with some sort of scars. It's just they're not always seen. You know, a lot of times, you know, as people, we tend to compare ourselves with others. And a lot of times I hear veterans downplay their service because they didn't have a combat deployment. Well, I've done that to myself as well. And I've come to realize that, you know, we all raised our right hand willing to pay whatever that price was, but that price wasn't up to us to make that call. That price wasn't ours to choose. We were willing, and that's what makes us together. And so, you know, we know that our veteran community, and we know that, you know, our friends in the military, some really gave all, and they're no longer with us. But the thing that I want to leave you with today is to remember that with every veteran you're talking to, they gave something. And whether you can see the visible scars or not, every single one of them went through some sort of battle to be where they are today. Thanks for listening to my story.